signal that you want to say something. If you're having any technical difficulties, Claire is our guru there, and I think you've probably already got her phone number, but it's also on this, just there if you want to quickly make a note of that. And obviously anyone using bad or offensive language will be removed. So we'll just move on to the agenda. I'm not going to say any more about it. As I say, I think all the items can speak for themselves. So there will be time at the end of each of the sections for questions. So please don't interrupt the speaker, but we'll just make sure that there's a wee bit of time at the end of each of them. But if you've got questions that are more general, not relevant specifically to the voting that we're going to need to do, perhaps you could save them till the end of the meeting, because we will all be hanging around for any additional questions if it's a more general kind of thing. And I think that's probably enough from me at the moment. So Martin, could you perhaps kick us off with the annual report?
Yeah, thanks very much. Hi folks, thanks very much for joining us this evening. Obviously, Claire and Veronica have done a great amount of work getting the annual report out to folks, and including posting out hard copies. But what we wanted to do here was just to quickly go over some of the main items within the annual report ahead of voting, just to remind you. I'm sure the KPC annual report has been your bedside reading for the last 2 weeks, but just in case you've forgotten anything, we'll go through it. We're going to focus first on the renovations programme, which has probably been the biggest thing that we were dealing with up until March. This year, as you all probably know, it has been a bit of a journey, not just sort of building on the work that was done by Helen Kyle and then by Lindsay Keenan, first of all, but also this board who joined in 2015, or sorry, half of the current board joined in 2015 and took us to the point where we could be awarded the land fund and the lottery and Scottish Government money to go forward with the purchase and the renovation. We selected the contractor for the building in February 2020 this year, and we're just about to sign the contract in March, which was obviously the best time to start off a renovation project. That sort of delayed things slightly, but by the time we got to August, we were underway, and there's been a bit of an extension to the programme because of the delayed working practices with COVID. But the great thing is that work is now underway. So for anybody that has been past the Kinnan Park complex on a wee sort of magical mystery tour recently for nostalgia, you'll probably see all the netting and the scaffolding that's up on the side. Unfortunately, rumours of a staff Prosecco bar on the roof are not true, so sorry about that. But the great thing is that rumours that we're going to have a fully waterproof roof certainly are true. So you can see that we've been up there having a check alongside Jim, who's our project manager, and the great news is that the roof lights are just about to go in the next week or so, and that will mark the end of the works to the roof, and by that point the building will be fully windproof and watertight. As we've went on, the renovation works have thrown up a number of pleasant surprises. We've finally opened up the old stairwell, so we can start to see some of the images there. So the kind of rabbit warren, where am I going, I think I'm lost aspect is not something that we're going to go forward with the Kinnan Park complex. And there's been some other nice surprises. So this is some of the ceilings on one of the floors, and we can see here the original ironwork beams by William Baird's Ironworks, which I think was up in Annie's Land and shut in about 1970, but these came from there originally. We have been quite lucky that, the building hasn't thrown up too many surprises. So there was some surprises with the stonework on the outside being a little bit more costly and time consuming than we thought, but fortunately, actually, there was a lot less rot in the building than maybe we had thought there might be. We're not 100% sure if having such big holes in the roof means that the rainwater just falls straight through into the buckets rather than running down the walls and rotting the sides, but that seems to have been what's happened. So, there'll be some time to ask some more questions about the renovation at the end, but we just really wanted to let everybody know that for the moment, everything seems to be going okay. I think the thing to flag up is that the COVID crisis hasn't been without its casualties in terms of the renovation project. So the renovation project for the Kinnan Park complex was supposed to completely renovate the old building, as well as build a new annex building next door and look at starting to prime a nearby football pitch for development as an outdoor education space. Unfortunately, because of the delays and the cost increases related to COVID and the inability of some of the funders to commit any extra monies to capital funding, we have paused plans for the annex at the moment and for the playing fields, and we're pulling back just to make sure that we're prioritising the main building. We've had we've engaged New Practice, the architect, to look at some studies about what we could do with the outdoor space, because we do now own the building next door, and so we'll hope to bring some ideas both to the membership and to the funders within the new year about how we can make the most of the outdoor space that we've got as well. Obviously, the Kinnan Park complex isn't a building for just being the sake of a building. It's also the home to a lot of different social programmes. And I think it's fair to say, even before the current COVID pandemic struck, that the social programmes in KPC were going from strength to strength. So the majority of the social programmes are delivered through the cafe. They've seen around 1,000 people come and join those programmes, around 85 people a week, the vast majority of whom were at higher risk of social exclusion, loneliness or isolation. The average age was around 60, and there were 17 regular volunteers completing around 50 hours volunteering over the course of the year. I think the most important thing, which we've only touched upon there, was that 100% of people who've came to the KPC cafe in terms of the social programmes we deliver have said that there's been a positive impact for them, either through creating new friendships and relationships or being able to improve their health and their well-being. So we're really, really proud of the impact that the programmes have been having. And I think that sort of stood the test of time when we had to reorientate all our programmes in light of what we've been doing this year. Although it doesn't necessarily fall within the timescale of the annual report, don't think that we could have really had any AGM this year that doesn't ask us all to pay attention to the work that the KPC staff team have been doing. In March this year, we really quickly reorientated our services, and the great relationships that we've got with a whole range of different funders meant that very quickly we were able to secure resources, not just for us, but for a whole range of community organisations across the local area to be able to deliver work. The stats here, as mind-boggling they are just the direct work which was delivered by KPC, which you'll see from the annual report was only about half of the budget of the work that was carried out with the funds that KPC managed to secure. So we're very proud of the amount of phone calls and check-ins that we managed to carry out with people, the amount of food that's been delivered, and the support that we've really been able to continue right through into the winter months as well. So that's something I think that everybody associated with KPC, including members, should be really proud of. So I suppose that's the kind of whistle-stop tour of the annual report, but I don't know if anybody's got any questions at this point in order to allow them to make their choices in terms of approving the annual report or not.
Any questions? I'm not seeing any questions myself.
Somebody's waving at me.
Not so much a question, but really a celebration of all the work you've been doing. So just wanting to affirm that. Yeah.
Steve, Irene?
Thank you. That's very true. They've done a sterling job, absolutely.
Okay. So, as I said, there'll be a chance to come and ask more questions about the renovations and the rumours of the Prosecco bar at the end. But what I'll do is I'm going to hand you over to Sarah just now, who leads the members, the governance subcommittee. And what is the governance subcommittee? I can hear you all crying silently. Now Sarah's going to tell you a little bit more about that.
Thank you very much, Martin. So my name is Sarah Johnson. I'm an additional member of the board, and I'm going to talk to you about the KPC's achievements of this past year. So KPC made the transition from a community interest company, CIC, to a Scottish charitable incorporated organisation, SCIO, and began operating as a charity in April 2019. So the SCIO was set up to make KPC more accountable, and it provided democratic control of the organisation and started KPC on a path to becoming a more member-driven organisation. So the membership scheme was launched in August 2019, and we'll talk a wee bit more about this in the upcoming slide. In October 2019, KPC held its first AGM, which I'm sure many of you attended. I actually wasn't there, but I did provide a video back before it was cool to do things digitally. But that was where the current board were voted in, where Gloria, Arthur and Jill were re-elected, Jill as the chair, and where we had 4 new members voted in from the local area, from G41 and G51, which included myself, Kenny, Alison and Farouk was voted in as vice chair. And from then, Leah was also co-opted in, but we'll hear a bit from Leah later. And yeah, Martin, that's fine to move on to the next slide. Thank you. So following the transition from SCIO, KPC had a new governance structure, which now included adopting a constitution, holding an annual AGM, and producing an annual report and accounts, and developing the membership scheme. So to manage all of that, the staff team and trustees established 4 subcommittees to focus and lead on decisions on 4 areas of KPC business. Each subcommittee has a lead and currently meets in the same pattern as the board. So we currently meet monthly, but that will possibly shift to quarterly as the board falls into that pattern. So we report at the main board meetings. So the governance subcommittee ensures that the actions of KPC align with the constitution and oversees the membership scheme. The finance ensures we are financially sustainable and oversees the reporting on that. Renovations oversees the renovation project and keeps stakeholders informed around that. And operations ensure that the programmes meet the aims and objectives of the KPC and that the staff team are supported in doing this. So the KPC board is reviewed every other year, and as this is not a voting year, next year will be. So if anyone is interested in standing for the board, please have a think about that. We are currently identifying gaps in skills, so there may be new positions arising. So as a first step, I would contact either Jill as chair or Martin for an informal chat, and look out next year for more information about that. Particularly if you've never sat on a board or don't know what to expect, then please do come forward for a chat. We're a nice bunch. Then next slide, please. So KPC is a membership-based organisation with the members drawn primarily from the local area, and we're in the process of working towards becoming a member-driven organisation. The current criteria for full membership is if you live in the G41 or G51 area or are actively involved as a volunteer or tenant. And we have an associate membership programme which includes everyone else who supports the values of the KPC and wants to guide the future. We currently have 47 members and 16 associate members. If you're here and not currently a member, please do go on our website and think about joining up. And if you know anyone else you would like to direct towards our website, you can see that on there it will say that as members, we hope that you will work with us to guide the future of the Kingdom Park complex to benefit our communities, tell others about us and give our time and your time and energy when you can, and stay in touch with us via regular updates. So we have a 3-year plan towards becoming a true member-led organisation, and the vision is for an active and engaged membership that plays a role in developing and delivering services and activities within the building. So as well as growing the membership in numbers, it's about deepening that connection and involvement. And we do know that it's been a difficult 9 months to hold that connection, and the staff team have done that really well. And we really appreciate everyone coming along here digitally while we wait for the building to reopen. But the support is in developing the membership scheme. We've got a new post for a community development officer, which is currently live at the moment and closes tomorrow. And the aim of this role is to further develop the KPC membership scheme by recruiting new members and supporting their participation in KPC activities, governance and the wider local area. The role will support the aim to increase the amount of services and activities designed and delivered by members and increase the members' participation in subcommittees and the board of KPCs as well as the KPC activities. So if you're interested in that role or know anybody that would be good for it, we've still got tomorrow to apply. So again, just check that out on our website. Thank you very much. And if anyone has any questions around that, please raise your hand now or pop in the chat.
No, I'm not hearing. Oh, hang on.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon, please. My name is Giska Kwimie. I'm from Africa Futures Organization. My question is regarding the membership. And we talk about the membership. The membership, is it someone who could join the killing part? Is it like a individual membership, or it's a community membership?
The membership at the moment is currently for individuals, so you would apply as an individual. Does that answer your question?
That's fine.
If you
Yeah,
want,
that's fine.
if you've got time to hang on at the end, we can
That's
answer.
fine. Thank you.
There was also a question in the chat as well about the 3-year plan. And I think maybe as the community development officer comes on board, that will be developed more. But I don't know, Martin, if you want to say anything more about that 3-year plan at the moment.
No, it was something, Laura, that we'd identified back at the start of next year, of kind of basing it that over the first year we would look to publicise and grow the membership. In the second year we would look to work with the members to deliver new activity, and in the third year we kind of review how that was going on. So it was quite a high level plan without any milestones or really set outputs or outcomes, other than we wanted to have more people joining the board and the governance structures. We wanted to have regular events and ways in which we could contact the membership, and we wanted to develop new services. And so that's been truncated quite a bit with COVID, because we were supposed to start that in around June time, and it's been delayed until, you know, the interviews should be next week, hopefully for the community development offer to sort of start in February. So at the minute it's still quite high level. I'll be quite honest, it's also quite high level because we don't really know how it's going to work. And you know, there are a whole load of different questions that we've got about how do you, how do you share information, where do you share it, what sort of decisions can be made by members, how do you balance the kind of operational needs of the organisation with the democratic needs of the membership. And so a lot of these questions at the minute are really questions for which we don't have answers. But that's something that we hope that working together with any members that are interested, as well as the community development officer, that we can work through together. So the only thing that I would say is that if it's a process that you're interested in following, or even more being a part of, then giving us a shout, and we're certainly looking for people to help us answer those questions.
Awesome, thanks so much.
No worries.
Thank you. I think if there's no other questions, we'll move straight on to the next agenda item with Gloria.
Okay, let me just share my screen. So my name's Gloria Murray, and I'm the treasurer for KPC, and I've apparently been on the board since 2015, and the only reason I know that is because Martin mentioned that earlier. It doesn't seem as long as that. And I've really enjoyed my time watching things develop. And as Martin and Sarah both mentioned, we've seen a lot of changes in the past year with the KPC. We've changed from a community interest company into a membership organisation, and that's meant that we've had to change the way that we handle the finances. We're now audited, which just gives us a higher level of confidence in the results and the accounts of KPC. And it's also meant that we've got access to more funding, and actually the income has grown hugely in the past year. As you can see, overall income has gone to almost £546,000. Of that, it's split into unrestricted and restricted funds. So unrestricted funds are income that's not earmarked for specific projects and can be spent in any way that KPC deems appropriate. all includes things like the day-to-day running of the building and the core staff. Restricted funds are used for specific projects, including the purchase and the refurb of the building and the funding of things like the AOK project that sprang out of the crisis that was brought about by the pandemic. But most of the finances, as Martin mentioned earlier, don't actually hit this set of finances because these accounts are from the 1st of April 19 to the 31st of March 2020. But we will see that coming through in next year's accounts. Just trying to get the slides to move on. There we go. So overall, the net income is £360,649, and out of this, there's unrestricted income of 9,102, which means that we've got a surplus to carry forward that allows us to add to the charity's reserves, because any of the restricted net income has to be used for specific projects, just as I mentioned about earlier on. We've also got cash at the bank of just over £20,000, and we actually propose to maintain the charity's reserves at a minimum of £20,000, but it's something that we as the trustees review regularly just to make sure that it's actually adequate to meet the charity's continuing obligations. If you're interested in, and you've actually got the accounts in front of you, you can see things like a breakdown of the funds. So page 11, note 2 will show you that. You can see that the vast majority of the funds that we received were grants, and again, you know, most of that grant was actually for the refurb and the buying of the building regeneration fund of £407,825. Things like hall hire and studio rental, that was always something that was a core part of what we did when we were a community interest company, and we did have various grants, but obviously we've never bought the building before, we've never refurbed the building, and it's meant that the funds for that has been much bigger this year, but it's also meant that we've had to be a lot more robust in how we keep our finances, and that's really grown as well. Spending on staff, core staff costs £77,875. Some of the core staff costs are paid for from grants for specific work that they do on projects, and I have to say that I'm constantly amazed at the amount of work that the team managed to pull off for the small amount that they actually that we spend on staff costs. On any specific projects, we spent just over £26,000. I thought I'd bring your attention just a couple of other little bits and pieces of other expenditure, just in case you were having a look and wondering about things like bad debts. Normally bad debts in accounts mean that someone hasn't paid their bill, but in this instance, it's not really a bad debt. It was compensation that was given to some of the tenants by way of rental excused, and it was just to allow them help with decanting when KPC closed for refurb. There's also external hall rental, which is one of these things that KPC have had to do just because there's no building there for us to use. So this is for the likes of Clyde Community Hall and other spaces, and it's just allowed KPC to continue with office space and also the cafe project while the building is closed. That's all I've got to say on the accounts, but I'm really happy to take any questions. Just don't ask me any hard ones. I'll stop my share just so that I can see if there's anything come through in the chat box. Well, it looks like I've stunned you all into silence.
That's always the way with accounts, isn't it? Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
I think now, if there aren't any questions, and I'm not seeing any come up, over to Leah, who's been an associate or for us associate member of the board for the past year, and is going to just say a wee bit more about hopefully staying. Sorry, there was a chat there. I missed that. No, okay, thank you. So Leah, over to you.
Perfect, thanks. Hi everyone, I'm Leah Lockhart, and I've been part of the Board of Trustees for just over a year. And I would like to ask members to agree to extend my position on the board for another 12 months. I'm a co-opted member of the board, and that means I was first invited to sit on the board by KPC because of my knowledge and my experience. But after 12 months, members must agree to extend my position. I'd like to continue my role as a board member and part of the governance subgroup because the values, principles, and aims and the energy of KPC are things I would like to continue to support and promote. I want to give my time and I want to share my skills to help develop KPC's further offerings and to practically support staff and volunteers. I have a background in community development and in digital engagement, and my current work focuses on co-production and inclusive design. My future hopes for KPC are that the new building becomes an example of what a values-driven, community-based workspace looks like in the future. And I'm really interested in helping to develop the membership program so it grows year on year, so more of the community can be involved in the decision-making of KPC. Thank you for that. Does anyone have any questions, or do members have any questions that might help them decide how to cast their vote?
No, thank you, Leah.
Thank you. And I'm going to segue us now into the voting section, and I'm going to take this with Alison, who will be pitching in a minute. So tonight we are allowing some time for members to vote online. KPC is a SCIO, a Scottish Charitable Incorporated Organisation, and that means it has a legal structure where the membership of the organization appoints the Board of Trustees, but it also has various other decision-making powers. And the rules about members' decision-making powers are set out in our Constitution. So all decisions made at this year's AGM are decided by a majority member vote. Every member has one vote for each of the items on the voting card. And the minimum number of members voting for decisions to be valid is 1/3 of members, or 10, whichever is lower. This year, members vote to approve the annual report. They vote to approve annual accounts, to approve the continued service of the Board of Trustees, and to approve my reappointment. Some members have returned their votes by post, and some members will be voting online in a few minutes. And Alison's going to walk us through how that works.
Hi, I'm Alison McCandlish. I'm a board member since last October. I'm on the Governance and Renovation Committees. So I'm going to show you how the voting system is going to work this evening. Leah's kindly outlined what we're going to vote on. I'm just going to show you what that actually looks like for those of you that have an online vote. So this is a tool called Padlet, which some of you may have seen during online life in the last few months since lockdown. We're using this to ask those of you who are voting online to either approve or not approve the annual report, the annual accounts, the Board of Trustees, and the service of Leah on the committee. So what that looks like is you that agree, thumbs up. You disagree, thumbs down, using this tool, Padlet. So Claire is going to send round a link to everybody individually who is entitled to vote using the online system. You don't vote again if you've already voted, and you only vote once on each of the 4 questions. And when you have done the vote online, you should get a red thumbs up or a red thumbs down, depending on which you choose. So I'm going to stop sharing this just now. But if anybody has any questions regarding online voting, we can take those in the chat box. Otherwise, Claire is going to send round the link for online voting.
Alison, just the links already available on your chat as well if you want to go through that for people who are.
Thank you, Alison, Leah. So we've got, I think we're going to have a few minutes now to allow people to vote. We've said 10 minutes, so maybe if anybody's struggling to do so within that amount of time, they could let Claire know using the mobile or through the chat. That would be really helpful. And we'll come back after that and look at the results. Thank you.
I think Jill's disappeared for
Oh,
dog
sorry.
issues.
Sorry, I was trying to manage my small dog here. I think, has everybody voted, finished voting? Yes, thank you. I see we've had some abstentions, but that's fine. You'll be pleased to know that all four of the votes have been, all four of the motions have been carried or agreed. Our accounts and our annual report, the board's continued running, and also Leah's continued service on our board. So thank you very much. And I think it's now just down to me to thank everyone else for coming along, for participating. As we've heard, there's been some fantastic work that's been done by Kenning Park over the past year. And I'm sure we'll go on to do even more. We've got a very exciting year in front of us, hopefully, when we reopen Kenning Park in the middle of the year. Probably a lot of hard work before we get to that stage. So thank you all for those of you that have already joined us to be members and to help support us as we move forward and be part of that fantastic new beginning, I suppose. And thank you also to the board. And thank you to, most importantly, the Kenning Park staff, who, as I say, can't thank enough for the work they've been doing, and particularly the work Claire's done just recently in organising this AGM and the annual report, which I think, you know, as is evidenced today, ran like clockwork. So thank you very much to all of you. I think some of us certainly are going to hang around afterwards, or hang around now, should I say. I think we're a little bit, it's actually only 7:15, sorry, anyway. So we'll hang around for a little bit longer if anybody's got any questions they want to pose to us. And hopefully I'll see you in person in the not too distant future rather than virtually. So thanks again. Take care.
Yes, it's also worth saying, folks, if people would prefer to go into smaller breakout rooms as well, rather than talk in sort of plenary, feel free to kind of put in the chat the sort of things that you would like us to talk about, and we can always set up a couple of smaller breakout rooms. You'll be here for the next half an hour or so, so certainly time. I know not everybody enjoys speaking in front of an audience, and so yeah.
Martin and everyone there, the staff, I have a question, which is what have you learned in the last few months about how you're working as a team, some of the challenges that you've encountered, anything that seems relevant to like the growth and the learning of the team that you'll be carrying forward in this year's work? It seems like COVID wasn't a big enough challenge for you all to mobilize, and you've got now the building to finish and to reopen, and it seems like an enormous amount of work that you're facing. And I'm really curious, is there anything you learned in the last few months that has empowered you or has left you with like kind of big questions about how you're going to do that.
Yeah, if it's all right, I'll go first, and if anybody else from the team wants to pitch in or contradict, or offer an alternative narrative, then they're really happy. I suppose maybe the first thing that we learned was that wealthy communities respond better to a crisis, and so I guess that means, what do we mean by respond better, and what do we mean by wealth? Organisations that possess wealth in all its forms, so wealth of connections, wealth of relationships, but also, let's be honest, financial wealth as well. So as an organisation, we're incredibly privileged in that we have a building. It's an asset. From that asset, we can generate income. That income then allows us to make choices about our own, path within the world. And so I think our privilege as an organisation was first and foremost what has allowed us to respond. So I don't think it's fair to talk about our response without recognising the privileged position that we're in, both by being an organisation that owns a building and also an organisation, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know. So the relationships that we had already helped us to draw in more resources. But, those relationships are not necessarily just with funders, or they're certainly not just with funders. And maybe the second thing that helped, that I think we learned from this is that well connected and well organised, communities who come together around a common vision that they've discussed themselves, who are prepared to work together, not necessarily in a kind of command and control structure. They're their best place, and the more that you can involve people in what you're doing, the greater your capacity to respond is. So I think, the first thing being that we're an incredibly privileged organisation, and we were able to use that privilege to affect some sort of change. And the second thing is that we're only as strong as the relationships that we have within the community, and only as strong as the participation that's there. I think maybe the last couple of things that we learned was just the depth of the resilience among not just the volunteers and everybody else, but I think it's also, at this point we have to pay testament to the staff team who were certainly, if they were unsure about what to do and how to do it, they certainly weren't unsure about what should be done. And they were able to respond really quickly. And so I think I learned a lot about the folks that I work with, be that the folks in the staff team, the rest of the Kinnan Park Complex volunteers, or the board themselves, whose backing in the background allowed us to go on and be brave and to take risks. And so I think that's probably three of the main things that I've learned and from this. But I don't know if anybody else, if nobody else from the staff comes out, I might just pick somebody randomly. So stand forward and save your teammate, somebody.
I'll go, I'll speak up. I'm Rachel, I'm the operations manager, for anyone who doesn't know me, and during COVID over the AOK project, I was leading the support team. So we were calling around people, checking in how they were, having conversations, helping with food needs, etc. But I think to answer your question about, I guess, what I've learned from my colleagues, I think one of the things which existed with us anyway, but which this situation kind of, I guess, made us closer, maybe speaking for myself, was just that we were really good at supporting each other. So it's always, like through the years I've worked here, we've always been able to see and help and support each other when somebody else has something going on or has more things to do personally. And I've always felt like we're good at sensing that and taking it in turns almost. We're really good at holding each other up. And with COVID, obviously it was a collective experience with everyone, but still experienced differently. And that kind of just continued. And as our staff team was able to got bigger as well, that we kind of went through that as well. It's weird to like think about some of the staff that came on board through COVID and getting to know them really well in such kind of disjointed circumstances. So getting to know someone really well, but you've actually never met them in person. And then months pass and you're like, hey, how you doing? Like when you finally meet them in person, and then you're like, oh, actually, this is the first time we're properly meeting, but I feel like I know you so well. So yeah, it's one of those, but that's how I've always felt with KPC. But the last few months, it was really, really heightened, I guess, intensified, and yeah.
I think I'd just like to add that I've seen how quickly and how agile, if you like, the Kidding Park team, and I know that goes back to what Martin said about understanding the local community and understanding where those needs are. But I certainly learned, I was totally floored by the speed with which Martin and Rachel and the rest of the team set up the AOK programme when it was needed. So I think that's something we've learned. We've learned that we can do that. I think we take a massive applause for that.
Yeah, and you know, not want to like decry the efforts, because I definitely think that we've got some really special people in the team here, and that helped. There's also structural issues in that, and I think right across Scotland what we've seen is that community landowners and community asset owning organisations were much more able to respond much quickly. They're smaller, they're nimbler, they form part of the tapestry of the ecosystem in our communities, and they really have a strong role to play. And so community landowners in some sense were able to respond much more quickly than, you know, local authorities and in some cases national government. I mean, it's not, let's also be honest that some of that was because of the support that came from central government or came from existing funders. But again, having communities who are served by, you know, democratic community owners within their communities is a great resource, and it's never been more needed than in the times of crisis that we've faced. And I like to think that, you know, to a certain extent, whilst we're all hopeful that this is the end of the beginning of the end for the current pandemic, in a sense it's probably just the end of the beginning, and the challenges that we're going to face as communities going forward, not want to, you know, scare everybody, they're going to be significant. But I think community organisations, community owners, democratic ownership, cooperation, different models can play a real key role in how we respond to those questions. And that's why, you know, we really encourage everybody, wherever you are, to get involved with your local community organisations. And if there isn't in the area that you live an organisation which is, you know, a democratic member organisation, well, get together and start one. You don't need to know what you're doing, because we don't. If it's okay, maybe answer Tara's question as well. Yeah, so I think Tara had asked a question about, you know, how can KPC you know, create shade for other organisations, and I think that's exactly the right way to frame it. You know, KPC, as we said before, does have this privilege. We have this privilege that comes from our history, from the people that we're involved in, from the resources and the assets that we've got. And I think the first thing that we have to do, the first step to realising any goal is to set the intention. So I think KPC needs to set the intention of, you know, creating that shade for other organisations. And I think realistically that's potentially the only thing that we can do. You know, the challenges that we face are so complex that if you take this kind of, we're going to control the responses, you're going to fail, because you're not going to understand that complexity, and you're not going to have the diversity within your responses as well. So I think we have to recognise that the best thing that we can do is to create space for other organisations and to create the conditions which shelter and nurture those organisations to be able to grow. And so within the business plan that was published last year, there was certainly an intention to provide affordable space through offices and co-working for smaller organisations, and to do that in a way that, you know, that allowed them to access the rest of the KPC. I think we'll continue to give space, you know, for a discounted rate and for free when we can. We've got a stated intention to help others grow their organisations, either in terms of the social value or help them grow the revenue so that they become more financially sustainable. And I know that the staff team and we're constantly considering how can we develop tools which serve us as an organisation, which we can then give away to others. So some of those things at the moment are thinking about how we can develop outcome measuring tools which are electronic and take us a little bit away from just doing things on paper, and that's something that we would hope to make available to anybody that wanted it as well. I think we've been really lucky and some of the staff that have joined us over the year that add to the great staff that we've got, and we have to improve and upgrade a lot of our own practices and procedures. And when we do that, whether it's our contract templates or whether it's training videos for Excel or for financial accounting, then we want to make them available not just to members and volunteers but to other organisations as well. And we also want to deliver more projects in partnership. One organisation could never be responsible for the breadth of activity that takes place in the Kinnan Park complex, and nor would you want to be. That would be a bit of a headache. And so it's about understanding that the strength of our communities is not only related to the connections and to the privilege that they have, but it's also the diversity, because the more diversity that we have within our community, the better place we are to respond to a whole range of different challenges. So there's still some things to work out along the way, but it's certainly our intention to do that, and I think that's the first step.
Thanks, Martin. Anybody else got anything they'd like to raise? I can't see sorry, I haven't seen any more in the chat. No? Is that us? Excellent. Good. I'll take that as a positive then. And obviously that doesn't mean you can never ask questions again. So you now all know where Claire is. Well, you all probably already knew where Claire was anyway, and Martin and Rachel, and any of us. If you want to ask any questions, or if you're not already a member and you want to become a member, then please come and join us. We'll be love to have you. So, and thanks to everyone again. And if that's all, I think we'll close the meeting. Great. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.